ChatGPT, AI machines,
satellite, engine ignition,
click here,
and liftoff.
From Recorded Future News and PRX, this is Click Here's Mic Drop, a longer listen to one of our favorite conversations of the week. I'm Dina Temple-Raston. Earlier this week, we talked about extremism online, how it's shifting and fragmenting and speeding up. But today, we want to focus on what comes next, a response. Because kids, some as young as 8, aren't embracing ideologies anymore. They're getting pulled into something far looser and far harder to track.
There is such a low barrier to entry for people getting involved in these groups. It used to be with an ideology, you had to be able to at least express yourself. You had to at least be able to articulate, why you were doing things. That's not required with this.
For years, social media helped us connect, share photos, talk to friends, find community. But for thousands of kids, the internet didn't just reflect the real world, it slowly began to replace it. And when COVID hit, it accelerated everything. Young people were spending nearly all their time online. And suddenly, they had unfiltered access to far more of the world and its ideas than any generation before them.
I think young people are very aware of lots of different online cultures and politics. It's not so much that people sit in a specific echo chamber anymore. If you're online and you're on 4chan or you're kind of, you're in gaming spaces, you're fully aware of alt-right culture. You're fully aware of where the incels live. You're fully aware of where, if you are transitioning and you want to kind of speak to other trans people, this is where they sit. It's this kind of extraordinary hotel lobby where it's all available and it's all sort of indexed out.
That's created a dilemma. How do you protect young people in a space where everyone is exposed to everything all the time? Because non-stop exposure doesn't just broaden horizons, it blurs boundaries. Ideas, jokes, fantasies, grievances, they all sit side by side. And in that blur, the path to harm just gets shorter. Suddenly, violence doesn't need a manifesto, it just needs a little shove, a meme, a moment, a nudge from the wrong person at the right time. And that shift from ideology to influence has changed everything we once knew about online extremism. Not just how it spreads, but how we stop it. We'll explain after the break. Stay with us. Support for Click Here comes from Clean My Mac. If you're like me, your cloud drives are packed with files you don't actually need. Sync duplicates, old backups, random junk just gobbling up storage. Clean My Mac takes care of that with a new cloud cleanup feature. It connects to your accounts on iCloud, OneDrive, and Google Drive and scans to find large space wasters, both in cloud storage and on your device. And while my Mac health is apparently excellent, Clean My Mac found 8 gigabytes of junk on my computer and tons of duplicate downloads. And it removed a bunch of leftover applications I never use. Who knew? And this happens locally on my Mac, so my data stays safe. Clean My Mac has a whole suite of other features, too, including their Moonlight anti-malware engine. With just a click, the anti-malware tool scans and removes viruses, ensuring your Mac remains threat-free. Not everything deserves eternal storage, so why pay for it? Get tidy today with Clean My Mac. Try it free for 7 days and use the promo code CLICK to save an additional 20% on your purchase at cleanmymac.com. Support for Click Here comes from Monarch. Let's be real, most of us want to stay organized with our money, but life gets in the way. Now there's an app that finally makes it doable. Feel organized and confident in your finances with Monarch, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you, so you never need to touch a spreadsheet again. You can link all your accounts in just a few minutes. And if you're having a good year, with Monarch, you're not leaving money on the table. You'll save more, invest smarter, and hit your financial goals faster. That's why the Wall Street Journal named it the best budgeting app of 2025, and Forbes called it the best app for couples. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code CLICKHERE at monarch.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code CLICKHERE. I'm Dina Temple-Roast, and this is Click Here's Mic Drop. Milo Comerford is the Director of Policy and Research at the Institute for Strategic Dialogue in the UK. And when he first started studying extremism, the idea of prevention seemed pretty straightforward. Spot the warning signs, intervene early, stop the slide before it becomes irreversible. But the longer he worked on this, the more he realized those warning signs weren't nearly as visible as people imagined. And the old models for prevention weren't built for the world young people now inhabit. Before you can talk about solutions, he says, you have to understand where the vulnerability actually begins.
You were seeing a lot of people not understanding how this was working and not really appreciating the role of social media platforms in providing people with identity and community.
Identity, belonging, a sense of being seen. That's what gets vulnerable kids sucked into dark places on the web.
We also have to be quite honest about these vulnerabilities and to work out ways of assessing risk that don't just create exactly the same dynamics that happened after 9/11, where suddenly all Muslims were in the spotlight for potential radicalization.
After 9/11, UK officials started a program called PREVENT. It was supposed to jumpstart early intervention. But it was really about going into Muslim communities looking for young people who might be radicalizing. And in reality, they weren't preventing anything. They were profiling. They were looking for signs in all the wrong places and misreading the real ones. Trust collapsed almost overnight. Families pulled back, teachers hesitated, neighbors went quiet, which meant that when someone was getting drawn into extremism, the people closest to them weren't sure they could say anything.
We have to learn the lessons from how those kind of profiling attempts didn't work and instead adopt a much more, kind of non-securitized approach that can get upstream.
But upstream prevention looks very different today. In the heyday of groups like ISIS, the ideology left footprints, a worldview, a manifesto, maybe a flag on a Facebook page. Now, motivations are murkier, more about environment than belief. Kids aren't joining groups, they're just being swept into digital spaces filled with hateful jokes, violent memes, and nihilistic aesthetics that don't look like radicalization. They look like content. Content adults often don't understand. Like in that pivotal scene in the Netflix series Adolescence, when a detective's son decodes Instagram messages for his father.
The dynamite. What do you think that means? It's an exploding red pill.
The detective sees emojis. The audience can see intent.
Listen, my brain can't take all this. I don't know what you're talking about. Just break it down.
13-year-old Jamie, the killer, is leaving clues, but the detective can't see them. That's what makes this modern threat easier to miss. Is this tech-driven or is this culture-driven?
Well, tech is culture. Yeah, it's very hard to separate those two things out now.
And that's the crux of it. COVID didn't just put more kids online, it supercharged everything. More time online, fewer buffers, and a massive expansion of peer influence. Digital interactions began to weigh heavier than offline ones. Friendships, conflicts, affirmation, they all felt real. And adults who didn't grow up online missed the signals. Which is why Milo's answer to what's the solution doesn't start with policing content. It starts with noticing the conditions, the emotional weather kids are living in, and then reaching them long before you'd ever call it radicalization. So what's the solution?
As a European, I often think the solution is regulation.
After the break, what that looks like in practice. Stay with us. Support for Click Here comes from GiveWell. When it comes to issues of health and poverty around the world, there's so much going on, it's hard to know how to help. For starters, how do you find organizations that are truly making a difference? That's where GiveWell comes in. GiveWell is an independent resource doing rigorous and transparent research. They figure out which charities do the most good for every dollar donated, and they only recommend programs with the biggest impact on saving lives. Over 150,000 donors have already trusted them to direct over $2.5 billion to great causes around the world. So check out GiveWell next time you're giving to charity. If this is your first gift through GiveWell, you can have your donation matched up to $100 before the end of the year, or as long as the matching funds last. To claim your match, go to givewell.org and pick podcast and enter Click Here at checkout. Make sure they know you heard about GiveWell from Click Here to get your donation matched. Again, that's givewell.org, code Click Here to donate or find out more. Support for Click Here comes from ExpressVPN. Going online without ExpressVPN is like not having a case for your phone. Most of the time, you'll probably be fine, but all it takes is one drop, and you'll wish you spent those extra few dollars on a case. Every time you connect to an unencrypted network in cafes, hotels, airports, your online data is at risk. It doesn't take much for someone to hack your device so they can steal and sell your personal information. ExpressVPN protects against that by creating a secure encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet. And the security is top-notch. In fact, it would take a hacker with a supercomputer over 1 billion years to get past ExpressVPN's encryption. Best of all, the app is incredibly easy to use and can be installed on all your devices. So go ahead, log on to that Wi-Fi in your local cafe, but make sure you have ExpressVPN first, so you don't end up with a nasty surprise. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/clickhere. That's expressvpn.com/clickhere to find out how you can get up to 4 extra months free. expressvpn.com/clickhere.
What the hell is going on right now? And why is it happening like this? At Wired, we're obsessed with getting to the bottom of those questions on a daily basis. And maybe you are too. I'm Katie Drummond, the global editorial director of Wired, and I'm hosting our new podcast series, The Big Interview. Each week, I'll sit down with some of the most interesting, provocative, and influential people who are shaping our right now. Big interview conversations are fun.
I want a shark that
eats the internet,
that turns it all off.
Unfiltered, and unafraid.
So in a lot of ways, I try to be an antidote to the unimaginable faucet of reactionary content that you see online, to the best of my ability.
Every week, we're going to offer you the ultimate luxury of our times, meaning and context. True or false? You, Brian Johnson, the man sitting across from me, one day, at some point, as of yet undefined in the future, you will die.
False.
Tell me more. Listen to The Big Interview right now in the same place you find Wired's Uncanny Valley podcast. Subscribe or follow wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the Atlantic, Milo says something important is already happening.
There is a lot of regulation happening of tech companies at the moment. There's been some quite promising moves by the European Union and by the UK, but also other countries like Australia to essentially hold platforms to account more for their role in this process.
It's a shift in philosophy, away from chasing down every dangerous post or video and looking instead to address the problem at its root. What risks are platforms designing into the system in the first place? For years, big tech has controlled how algorithms work, what data is collected, and how they nudge young users around their platforms. Now, some lawmakers are pushing back, saying if you build the environment, you're responsible for what happens inside it. Platforms know who their youngest users are. They know what they click and what keeps them scrolling in the wee small hours of the morning. And they know where the rabbit holes lead.
we're talking about, people who are 12, 13, these platforms know that these people are 12 or 13, and they have a responsibility to ensure that their functionalities, that their services are age appropriate. And so there's been this big shift towards essentially being much more robust in making platforms, deliver on their promises to keep young people safe.
Right. Age gating.
It might be age gating, but it might also be certain features that are turned off. It might be, the most addictive parts of the platform are kind of reduced. It's just about understanding and assessing what the risks are to young people and mitigating those, and not telling them what they need to do, but telling them it's their responsibility to solve it.
This is the heart of the new model, designed for safety before crises have time to emerge. It's what Europe's Digital Services Act aims to do. Forcing transparency, banning targeted ads to minors, even imposing real penalties when companies fail to protect children.
Ultimately, it's European regulators standing up and saying, you foreign companies have a responsibility when you're selling things to our young children. As democratically elected representatives, we have to ask the questions of what you're doing. And if you're not doing a good enough job, then we're going to fine you, we're going to hold your leadership to account, and in some cases, we're going to ban you.
And that's one solution, structural, systematic, and upstream. But Milo says the next stage of prevention is more intimate and quite a bit harder. Because by the time a kid stumbles into a violent online community, the grooming has already begun.
When you're dealing with issues of grooming, you have to deal with that in an incredibly sensitive way. And what you're dealing really with these online communities is grooming of a different scale. People are being groomed towards carrying out acts of violence.
But here's the challenge. Adults often don't understand how real online relationships feel to the young people who form them. What looks like a username to a parent can be someone who feels like a best friend to a teenager online.
We think there must be something missing because, why would you do this for someone you've never met? But that's kind of the way that these spaces are operating now.
I feel like we're also missing something here, just like we did with ISIS, I think, because we're older. And so we don't really fully think that just because you meet somebody online, you really feel this solid connection and you never have to meet them in person. And this new generation actually thinks they're friends with people that they only know that's online. Right.
And they feel real connection. I think that's the thing that we underestimate, is we assume that, these tools are just a means to real relationships, whereas these are real relationships. People have parasocial relationships online that are as meaningful as people offline.
In that world, prevention can't rely on policing content alone. It requires something else. It requires people around a young person to recognize the telltale signs that something is off. Because someone who's drifting into danger almost always leaves clues. Do you know of any interventions that actually work?
I think all the promising interventions are about getting bystanders better engaged. So really understanding how to respond and how to flag potential risks is seemingly the most effective approach.
Things like increased secrecy, social withdrawal, changes in behavior.
And really, what does that look like? It's about getting information out to people. It's about knowing who to speak to, and also providing pathways for referral that aren't just picking up the phone and getting someone arrested, but rather providing them with the support they need.
And often, those clues live in the places adults overlook. A digital diary, a late-night post, a private server, maybe a string of messages that change tone over time.
And there are just lots of opportunities for understanding in the online space how this person might have been, reached and the risk mitigated. But we missed our chances.
And the cost of missing that moment is enormous, measured first in the people you might have saved and then in the resources it takes to repair the damage.
The money you spend on prevention, you reap dividends on in, mitigating the impacts of what happens when you don't prevent.
In the UK, that thinking is starting to reshape policy, including a major review of that PREVENT program we talked about before. Lord David Anderson, a member of the House of Lords, examined what wasn't working and what could. His conclusion? Treat online extremism the way you treat a public health crisis. It's an approach built on 3 pillars: digital literacy, stronger oversight of online environments, and support systems for kids who show early signs of risk. And for Lord Anderson, the work is personal.
I think the answer to that is spending as much time with the person as you can, trying to see them in an environment, for example, the home or the school.
That emphasis on presence, on showing up, has reshaped his understanding of the problem.
Most of those people at this stage have not done anything wrong. They haven't reached the criminal threshold. They're simply susceptible to being radicalized. And what it can do if it works, and it does often work quite well, is to put something in place, whether that's a plan of support or whether it's a mentor who can make the difference in those people's lives and put them on a better path to help them, but also to safeguard the rest of us.
The internet spans the globe, and so will the next generation of solutions. It will take regulators willing to set boundaries and platforms willing to redesign their systems. Parents and teachers have to be willing to engage early. And young people have to be willing to speak up when something doesn't feel right. For decades, kids were taught stranger danger. Now they need to learn a new version of that lesson, one shaped not by the neighborhood, but by the news feed. We're in a new era, Milo says, and it requires a new playbook. One that recognizes that prevention doesn't start with ideology. It actually starts with a connection. From Recorded Future News, this has been Click Here's Mic Drop. It was written and produced by Megan Dietrich, Sean Powers, Erica Gaida, Zach Hirsch, Lucas Riley, and me, Dina Temple-Rest. It was edited by Karen Duffin. We'll be back on Tuesday. Have a great weekend.
Looking for more of the cybersecurity and intelligence coverage you get on Click Here? Then check out our sister publication, The Record, from Recorded Future News. You'll get breaking cyber news from reporters in New York, Washington, London, and Kyiv, among others. And you'll see for yourself why it attracts hundreds of thousands of page views every month. Just go to therecord.media.